Hi! Hello everyone, my name is Josh Foreman. I am in the middle of moving, but I'm really glad that I have this opportunity to do some art because I owe three sculptures, to my parents who are helping me move. They're driving up here, it takes them about 3 hours to get up here, and they're gonna help me move, and I've had these sculptures that I made for my mom probably for 4 or 5 years. I made them for her, gave them to her, and then asked to have them back just so I could do a photo shoot of all my sculptures together. But every time I was about to do that photo shoot, I was like, well, wait, there's like, if I just give it another couple months, I'll have this other one done, and then I could do all of my sculptures at once. And it turns out that is a never-ending thing that just keeps going forever and ever. I'm gonna plug myself real quick, like a damn. These are books that I've written with said mother / co-author. She's an amazing author. I do most of the world building and visual development and add lots of cool illustrations and maps and stuff in the books. They're really cool, really fun, highly rated on Amazon. I recommend you check them out. This character right here is a creature she created for the book. His name is Scola. And this was my first, well, I shouldn't say first. I did pencil sketches first. But then shortly after that started doing, sculptural interpretations. And this was my first like big sculptural interpretation. Eventually he evolved into this, which is pretty similar, but has particular differences. For one, he's got 4 little stubby legs instead of merely 2 little stubby legs. Yeah, and so I've had these sculptures around, and they're made out of polymer clay, which sucks for if you haven't baked it long enough. Now, if you bake it, like over bake it, it can turn into something very hard that lasts a very long time. But I did not do that. I didn't know about that back when I made these like 15 years ago. Oh, and by these, I'm also referring to this guy right here. This was my attempt at making a line of figurines I wanted to sell called Costume Kids. This one is called Big Roar. You see he's wearing a lion costume. And then I figured out I would be making far less than minimum wage if I sold this for anything that anyone would actually pay for it, because, you know, it ends up taking me like 100 hours or something to make each one. So yeah, so I've got to fix these guys up. One of the things that I did on a previous stream is I redid this guy's base, and I what's the word when you add more structure? I drilled more holes up in through his leg into his body to insert screws, and it turns out there already were screws in there, but they didn't go all the way down to the feet. Again, this is just because I didn't quite know what I was doing 15 years ago. So it ended up breaking his leg, this one in particular, shattered into several pieces that I now have to go in and fix. Now, the plus, or the fortunate thing about this guy is that he's almost completely black, and he's got these kind of visually noisy scales on him. Technically reticuli, not scales. Did you know that scales overlap? But like alligators, dinosaurs, those kind of creatures, they don't have scales. They have and there's another word too. So there's reticuli, meaning like it's just very hard skin that has softer bits in between where it could bend, right? That's what the kind of harder parts that we would call scales, us dummies would call scales, but it's reticuli, and there's another word. If you can think of it, tell me what it is. Hey, Randy Bishop Art, thank you so much for the raid. I was just talking about reticuli, the difference between reticuli and scales. So this guy is reticulated, and so fixing these cracks is not going to be particularly arduous, except for the fact that he's remounted to this board, like he's screwed in there, and when I screwed him out and put the screw back in, that's when the leg shattered into all these pieces. Super sculpy, underbaked, terrible material. So to fix them today, I'm going to be using epoxy sculpt. This stuff hardens pretty much hard as a rock, and it's actually what they use to make a lot of like theme park architecture and sculptural elements with, because it's like harder than cement. Gloves is what I need. Now, because I'm in the middle of moving, like after this stream, I'm literally packing up everything you see around here. I want to see the process so far. I've already removed most of my sculptures that were back there. I still have some stuff on the wall. Look at that collector's item. So I've got a Guild Wars 2 wall thing, which is probably distorted all to hell, but even better, look at that, from the year of our Lord, circa 1999, I have a Queen Amidala poster. Oh, and it looks like there's even another Phantom Menace poster up beyond that. Again, all completely bent to hell and absolutely worthless now, because that's the only place I can find to store them. Yeah, so anyway, working on packing everything up, and I'll complete that hopefully by the end of the day. But like I said, I need to finish these things because my parents are coming up and I want them done so that I can give them to her, and I'll have more space in my studio because I won't have these dumb sculptures taking up all my valuable space, and B, I just feel bad that I gifted her these things and then took them back and have had them for years. So, here we go. Let's do some fixing. It's fixing time! But the next time you see me, I'll be in my new studio. Will it be completely set up? No idea, but I'll at least have the computer and camera and stuff set up. I should be good to go pretty fast. Let's see. One thing I need to do is kind of blow off this. Oh. Excellent. Only the highest quality tools and materials here at Breath of Life Development. Okay. For whatever reason, the hole that I had drilled at the bottom, the first time I had him set in place, didn't work afterwards, so I had to move the drill hole over, and that probably had something to do with shattering his leg when I re-drilled up through there. But now there's this kind of big gap under there. Fluffy Kitten T-Rex, thank you for the follow. So this epoxy sculpt stuff is two-part. If you're familiar with green stuff, it's a lot like that. Ooh, and actually, I just thought of something. I'm gonna hop over to my other guy first. Going down here somewhere. Because I need to do a little paint job over it that's going to be a little trickier than the simple black that needs to go over Scola, right? So, see, he cracked in different ways, but yeah, that arm needs to be fixed and reinforced. Fortunately, this guy's armature I did really well. Like there's very thick rods going up through his legs. It's really just kind of the arms that have cracked and a bit of the tail back here. But because the color is like so specific, it's going to be a little tricky to hide the patch job that I do on him. But I'm gonna try. And one of the things I'm gonna try is doing a base color that is close to the brown that's already in the cracks. So in theory, if I match it well enough, all I have to do is just like dry brush this kind of mustardy yellow over it. But in order to match it, I'm gonna be trying to match it with this So Strong pigment, and these things are, well, they're so strong. So it's not going to be super easy to match a color precisely, but I'm going to give it our best shot. Oh, look at this. Yeah, this stuff, it just like gets everywhere, and I've tried several different containers or methods for containing it, and no matter what, I always end up, it gets everywhere, and it's like sand, you know. Okay, so to get brown, I'm going to do a little bit of yellow, and then hopefully a very tiny bit of blue and some red. Okay, let's get the drop. Come on. Oh man, is it one of those things where it's like dried out, so it's building up? And then at some point it's just like it squirts everywhere. I think we've all been there. So instead, just gonna dab it off of the edge there. That's probably enough. Oh, wait. This thing needs to go back on. Given what a small little lump of clay is, like even just the residue on my fingers is going to impact the color that it ends up as. What about it? Not that I can hear. I haven't used the oven today, so I hope so.
What? Oh, did you heat up this plate? I don't know. It's in the house. Smell.
You're smelling something?
Yes, something hot in the house.
Oh, it's probably I set out some alcohol with resin in that tub on the hood of my car to dry out. So the alcohol is evaporating off of used resin.
It was inside the house. Looks weird.
Well, that's my guess at what it would be. Nothing like scary, strange chemical smells wafting through your house. Okay, so this is turning out way too reddish. So I'm gonna add some more yellow. It is almost always the case in almost all pigments that you need to like have double the amount of yellow as your other colors if you expect it to be represented in the mix. In this case, maybe quadruple. It's possible that it's like maybe there's so much blue and red that there's no chance for this yellow to ever catch up. I don't know if there's such a threshold. It does feel like it's getting closer to what I'm shooting for. I'll hold it next to that little color right there. Yeah, that's pretty close actually. Put over here. Close up my containers while I have contaminated gloves. Remove contaminated gloves. But because it's like 90 degrees in here, my hands are all sweaty now. Putting on rubber gloves over sweaty hands is like one of the least fun things you could do. Moving is still worse than that, but doing both at the same time, torture. Let me try something. happy to be done with that bottle. Oh boy. Come on now, you can do it. I have larger gloves. I normally use medium, but I have a set, I have a box of large specifically for this that I tend to use in the summer. And then in the winter when it's cold, frigid, and my hands are like half the size, the mediums are perfect. Okay, let's find, where did my sculpting tool go? Aha, blending in with the background. See, I made sure it's camouflaged so it blends in with my cool, like, ruins back there. Scraping off the residue from the last time I used it. So the epoxy clay obviously likes to stick to stuff. That's one of the reasons it's really good at what it does. Exactly, it's when you accidentally find something that you were looking for, that's the worst. Looks like his head is nice and firmly in place. So it really is just these two little cracks I need to worry about. Oh, and of course, I also forgot this. Safety solvent. This stuff is great. You can use water with epoxy sculpt, but safety solvent is better. Makes it so that the clay does not stick to your tool, at least while you're working with it. And unlike water, it doesn't leave sort of a chalky residue. Now, I'll be curious to see over time if other cracks develop in other areas. You know, if this is just a losing battle where eventually the entire thing becomes a patch, or if it's just because these are particular weak spots in the structure. That's a great question. I've never used safety solvent with green stuff, but I also have not used green stuff more than a handful of times, so I can't remember what that experience was like, other than I just prefer epoxy sculpt. My guess is that it would work perfectly fine. I mean, all of these two-part epoxy sculpting, patching type materials are more or less variations on the same basic chemical compound, just with different flavors. sticks to you rather than the surface you're trying to stick it to. Yeah, in that case, safety solvent might do the trick. I know a lot of people use water or like lick their fingers all the time. I do not recommend that. Let's see, this one. God, I need a little bit of footage for this for my YouTube video. So I'll show these pigments. Show the clay. Apply said clay. Hey, buddies. You know, sometimes you gotta make coffee. This is interesting how far this can actually pull apart. Like, the understructure in here is staying intact, but the sleeve of the other material that I made slides out. So this is one of those things where debatably super glue might be the best thing to do here. But I'm gonna see if doing just a very small amount of this and then pressing it together really hard, scrape off the little kind of excess that squeezes out. See if that does a better job, because I feel like I have tried super gluing this before and still have problems with it. Okay. Let's see what happens when we squeeze this back together. Hope is that I don't accidentally break something else, because that tends to be what happens when I try to refurbish old Sculpey stuff. So, I'm applying pressure, but very carefully. Seems like half the battle when you're restoring fragile sculpture is being able to think about how you're holding it as much as what you're doing to it. Alright, see how that holds up. There was another minor fracture somewhere down here, but I'm not seeing it now. Okay, there's a little bit of a crack right there. Can't hurt to just flip this over it real quick. Thanks, Zorkstar. Yeah, I worked way too hard to make it way too detailed. Okay, and then here we have this obvious problem. Now in this case, this is debatable whether or not super glue is the best thing for this. I'm almost certain that I've super glued this before and it's still happening. So I think I'm gonna, you know, I've got this out. It's all color matched and everything. Might as well take advantage of it. And before I do that, I'm seeing that there is a little fracture here. That could be a good place for super glue. Thanks, Felice. Well, that was way more than I intended, but we will be okay. Now, you can see I have this residue on my fingers, and so I'm being really careful when I grab my sculpture. I'm not touching them with the tips of my fingers. I'm trying to keep them clear. Okay, I believe the seam on the tail goes down. It's harder to tell now that everything is kind of covered with goop. Yeah, that seems to work. Oh, although now I'm noticing that doesn't, looks like the seam is going to the side, which is not what I expect, but it seems to socket into place that way. So on the other hand, I'm seeing like bald spots where, you know, because I hand poked all of this in to place and glued it in one strand at a time, which took forever. So now I'm thinking maybe it's supposed to go. Let's see. It really feels like it slots into place like perfectly this way though, so I should probably just go with go with what feels right, and then I'll have to patch up that top a little bit, hopefully. Continue our little seam all the way to the base. Okay. Now that just leaves the question of our little hairs that aren't stuck in very well. It looks like I might be able to just take this strand. If I do a drop here and here, I might be able to do the equivalent of a comb over. one giant drop and spread it over with an X-Acto. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I need to solve with a clay filler at this point. There's some little cracks coming off of his little belly there, but I don't think they're they rise to the threshold of, oh my god, I gotta fix that. Now he's got a little bit of texture on his costume, which I believe I still have the texture stamp for it, but because I'm in the middle of moving, I've got boxes all over the place and I don't want to get up and try to find it. So instead I'm just gonna kind of gesture at recreating it. I ruined that brush because I forgot to clean it off after I used it on epoxy last time. So let's ruin another one, shall we? Get one that's already fairly ruined. After applying a texture with a hard edge tool like this, this kind of wax dental tool, using safety solvent on a soft brush will just kind of blend that stuff together pretty well. And it also will kind of pull the color out to the area around it, which will make blending it into the surrounding color even easier. That's right, you always want to have a stable of pre-ruined brushes. You buy those really expensive ones and you take them home and you just like stick them in latex house paint and then leave them out in the sun for a couple hours and then jam them over and over again into the bottom of a cup. That's my method. Okay, I'm now noticing a pretty significant crack in his shin here. Not happy about. Again, I think these things develop as I handle them. You know, the more I work with it, the more it's kind of breaking. And so at some point, I gotta just go hands off and say, good enough. Someday I'm gonna figure out 3D scanning, and I can 3D scan this guy and then clean him up in ZBrush, and then 3D print, and problem solved. Be one solid mass. But we are not to that day yet. Especially with this fur, right? Like, how are you going to 3D print this fur? We're not there yet. Camera's not having a good time staying on this, is it? tell if this crack is opening wider or I'm somehow removing material from inside of it. Try just like smooshing it down with my brush. Maybe that'll help. Okay. I think that'll do for now. And then I'll do the, oh, no, wait. There's that other little fracture. It would be a bummer to feel like I have to come back to it and do this exact same process on like one other crack that I missed, you know. Okay, for real now? Okay. Set him off over here. We have this little blobby left. I think I'm gonna, where's my black? Grab my Scola. Oh no, I touched the camera lens, not the lens, the housing with that thumb. Oh my God. My poor camera. I need to just hire a professional cameraman to help me with all my streams, apparently. Point is, I was going to use that and like, although, oh, you know what's interesting? So this is like sort of an off brown. It's kind of close to the, like between his reticulated skin is this more like Caucasian-y flesh, and so it might be better to sculpt with that and then just dry brush black over it as opposed to doing it black to begin with. Although I'm gonna have to, I don't know. I know nothing. Anyway, I'm gonna apply this here, and I know I'm gonna need more, so I'm just gonna mix up some more while I've got these gloves. Please press F to pay respects to my camera. That's a good question. I do feel like I would, well, I would use Super Sculpey Firm instead of Super Sculpey. You know, I was trying to do, and well, and I would use a much more robust armature, and I would overbake it, which is, it discolors the clay, but it does make it like pretty darn hard, and it doesn't become crumbly over time. I would definitely use Cost Clay for elements like these little floppy scales that stick out, quills. So now that that is mixed, I can dump these gloves. Try to dry off my sweaty hands. And perhaps with alcohol. I think alcohol is probably the best thing to use to try to clean this off my camera. Do I have easily accessible alcohol? I do. Right here. Yeah, you can see that's that, like, I barely touched it, and it's just so much pigment on there now. Every time I touch it for the rest of time, I'm probably going to end up spreading this around now, because it's like on a you can see here, right? It's on this textured part, so it's like there's no way to get all of it out of there probably. Yeah, definitely sculpting things this size, knowing about the various materials that are out there, a huge bonus. Knowing that you can overcook Sculpey, also a huge bonus. I don't even know if Super Sculpey Firm was a thing when I made these. It may have come out like right after. Okay, so when I was working on this guy last time, of course, I put on these things, and because I was trying to do it all in one go, like a maniac, I ended up just like squashing them with my hand, and now I have to go back in and like carve them out. You can get a sense for how tough this epoxy clay is. Yeah, it's almost like carving stone. These ones are okay. Ones on the front. Do need sort of a cleanup carve. They're kind of a little bit wobbly, and I expect that. The thing that's unique about sculpting with two-part epoxies like green stuff and well, I guess not everyone sculpts this way, but for the most part I block a thing in and I just expect to do another pass of like carving or sanding, and then I'll add the next layer to it. As opposed to Super Sculpey, where I feel like you kind of have to nail everything in one go. Or, you know, you do one part, you bake it, you do another part, you bake it. But it's not usually built up in layers in the same way. Yep.
You want to keep this, or can I just throw it out?
Why would you throw that out? It's amazing. Here, let me
That
show
thing I
the
call
stream.
is amazing. Okay.
These are some magical keys that my son made when he was... How old do you think you were? Like 10 or something?
Probably. You painted them though, so that's all that makes them.
Oh, right. I helped you with painting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think they're delightful. Now that he's 21, almost 22, he's like, oh, I'm too good for these old garbage statues I made. So one thing that I'm doing with these new quills, as you can see, the old ones that survived, they actually stick out, right? And like, can I get a profile of that? Yeah. Right, and they flop around a little bit, and I made them with, what's it called? I think it's Sculpey Eraser, they call it. So it has a little bit of flexibility to it. This was like, you know, again, 15 years ago. And they did not work nearly as well as I hoped, which is why most of them broke off. And so with this new batch that I've sculpted on here, I'm just like literally making them have contact with the surface all the way down. And it's something like you just can't notice when everything's black on black on black. It's totally fine to just have them all touching the surface all the way down. In my book. Oh. What I'm trying to avoid is this kind of thing. See where it's the line, the ridge kind of wobbles out and then comes back in? That does not look great. Makes it look like a floppy boy instead of a strong, hard, stiff boy. Let's not keep going down this metaphorical path. rest are fine. Fine enough. Let's fill up all these gaps now. I've not done any Dota 2 minis. Roshan is a Dota 2 character that this guy reminds you of. I have to look that up. I'm not familiar with their stable of characters. One thing that I kept running into when I would show this around or have it at art fairs or whatever is people were like, "Whoa, cool gremlin." It used to make me upset. At some point, I went through the exercise of taking a bunch of famous creature designs. So I took Yoda, E.T., the Gremlin, the Mogwai before they turn into Gremlin, Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Who else? Oh, who's the character from Farscape? The little Muppet guy, Reginald or something like that. A Furby also fits this template. But yeah, all of those characters have pretty much this proportion of eyes to nose to mouth, and then usually like pointy ears on the sides or the top. And once I compiled those all together in Photoshop and like laid them over each other and just had them side by side, I was like, okay, it's fine that I'm working with proportions that are like well trodden and successful and appealing. And it's okay for people to reach for the nearest thing that comes to mind when they see your work. It's just natural. I find myself doing it all the time when I'm, talking to my artist friends, or I see their work posted, and like, I usually am able to stop myself before I do it, but I do notice in myself, my first impulse is to be like, hey, that looks just like fill in the blank, like, that does not feel good to hear that, so I'm going to stop saying that to people. Because from the artist perspective, it really does feel like you're saying, your work is derivative and unoriginal.
I've been compared to, I think the guy's name is Modest Mouse?
I've heard of Modest Mouse, yeah.
Modest, really?
The band, the musician?
Yeah, it's like a small indie band in like Seattle, Kirkland area.
Are they local?
No, I don't. They're local-ish. I think maybe they're based in Tacoma. I don't know, but they make really weird music. And I'm always like, what? I don't see the resemblance. But...
Yeah, you never know when people hear and see things, what particular elements they're comparing it to.
But it does feel like they're saying it's unoriginal.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
That's not what they mean, though. Usually. I mean, some people are just being mean, but they'll usually use different words when they say that. They'll say like, oh, it's a whatever ripoff, or it's the poor man's version of whatever, or it's the Wish version of Tool, or what, Painted a portrait of David Bowie. Someone told me it reminded them of David Bowie. Looks vaguely like David Bowie if you squint. Portraits are hard. Portraits are so hard. I made the mistake of starting a portrait of my wife um, probably like 12 years ago. It remains to this day unfinished. It doesn't help that like she actively hates the way she looks, so the more it looks like her, the more she hates it. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to redo the sculpture digitally and then 3D print it. Because I think I have, for me, it's a little easier to capture the likeness, especially the amount of work it takes to do a traditional sculpture portrait with, like, if you don't have your forms nailed, you're redoing double the work. Well, more than double the work. It's more like triple, because to keep things somewhat symmetrical, you're doing the same work twice, obviously, on each side of the face. And then the work of making sure it's symmetrical across both sides means you're constantly bouncing back and forth and then being like, oh wait, actually this side is a little better on this part, so now I have to resculpt that on the other side, the original side, or, you know, it's a mess. But yeah, she's going to end up being one of the characters in one of our books. Like, I got, you know, her face is going to be on the cover like that as a statue. She doesn't have a say in it. Now, one of the nice things also about this epoxy sculpt is that you don't have to wait for it to set to paint it. And since I'm trying to, you know, get this all done today so that it can be totally ready when my parents get here, I can literally just get the sculpting done and then apply the paint right over it. Because it does not require air to dry, it's an internal chemical process. And it doesn't generate heat or do any other weird things that mess with the paint drying either. At least I've never run into any problems with that. Certainly not with acrylics. I'm guessing it's the same with almost all paint, but I guess I haven't done extensive testing to know for sure. Another thing I would definitely do if I were starting these things from scratch is I would make the arms and the head detachable from the very start. Like, I knew enough to sculpt them kind of separately and then attach them together, you know, later in the process. I did not know enough to think to myself, oh, why not just make that, you know, it's not a lot more work to just make it so that they're always detachable, you know, especially on a reticulated skin like this. It's so easy to hide a seam where you could just pop things on and off. I learned that with, you know, the Colossus here. He comes apart into like 7 pieces, I think. That was like absolutely by necessity because he's about 90 pounds when he's all together and 4 feet tall. So there was like no choice on that. There was no way to sculpt that all as one massive thing. Yeah, I did the Baby Yoda articulation. Someday I'll learn to call him Grogu, but in the meantime, in my head canon is that he'll always be Baby Yoda. The ultimate vindication would be if in season 3 they do that. I know I've heard this fan theory somewhere that he's the reincarnation of Yoda, which is easy to disprove in that Yoda would have still been alive while Baby Yoda was around, since he's 50 in the series. But still, I mean, maybe Jedi can time travel reincarnate. You don't know that they can't. But then he could literally be Baby Yoda. Well, now you know more than you need to, Quindy. Yikes. I don't know. Wow, that's quite a gap to fill, but fine. The fact that this guy is all black hides a multitude of sins. And I'm just going to go ahead and take full advantage of that, given my time and energy constraints right now. Normally I would be a lot more fastidious about it, but it's like, I just gotta get this done. Gotta move, y'all. There's also had a toenail break off down there. Yeah, Quindy, that's kind of the zeitgeist with the internet now is knowing way more about many things than you need to. Thanks, internet. You know, what's funny is we're moving to a new neighborhood about 10 miles from here. And one of the things that I thought about recently was like, oh cool, now we won't have to deal with garbage trucks when I'm streaming for Reaper. And then I found out their trash day is on the same day. It's also on Thursdays. I don't know if it's the same time though. Maybe it'll be a different time. And it's hard to see, but there's like a huge crack in there, and I'm patching it more for stability than for aesthetics, because I don't think anyone would notice it after it's painted black. But
Dad, do you want the back of the car closed?
no. That's right. Represents the garbage content that I'm creating. Alright, I think all I gotta do is clean up. Let's see, are there any scales? Or not scales, quills. I think all these quills are fine. I just gotta pair a couple in the back. Will be good. Oh, actually, before I do that, here is prime opportunity. Since I have the ability to hold him like so, I can do some just basic sanding. Smooth out all the places where it got like I was grabbing it while I was trying to get these scales put in place, and while this was still not cured. So Now scales. Oh, I like that, Quindy. So it's like a memento mori, are they called? I don't know how to pronounce it properly. It's probably Latin, for like when you have a skull on your desk to remind yourself that you will die one day, and to take appreciate and take advantage of the fact that you're alive today.
Honey,
Yes.
do you know
No.
if the bathrooms are on the same circuit? Because if I run the hair dryer, is that gonna blow the AC?
Probably yes.
You think they are on the same circuit?
I think they are. Even if they're not, it's possible you can blow the whole house though. With like hair dryers are just ridiculously
Honey,
energy inefficient. So no AC while you're doing that.
keep this between me and the hair dryer.
All right.
Okay. Well, I have the AC on.
You can just call me when you're ready to blow dry your hair, and then I'll turn off the AC while you do it.
I'm ready to blow dry the fuse.
Yeah, whenever you're ready to blow up the house, let me know.
That sounds
I mean, we're moving, so we don't need it anymore.
well, then we can sell it or give it to somebody who really does need it. Who knows? Maybe something's gonna blow up in our faces and we do need it. We have one unit for the entire house. We all just moved downstairs. I can't imagine the downstairs. Do you remember where the bathroom vents were?
No. I think they go straight up and out.
I don't know, like the AC for the bathroom or the vents for heater and stuff.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Probably in the only floor space.
Probably.
Maybe that's why.
You died once, cursed? For real? Shower curtain has memento mori on it. Nice. I also have a strong goth affinity myself. My favorite band to this day is Virgin Black. How are we doing? Go those. Oh, there's one missing on this ear tip right there. Diabetic ketoaciditis. Blood went toxic. Ooh. 4 days of coma. Yikes. That's scary. Although I guess apparently it was nice. How was it nice? Did you have any like spiritual experiences from it? Or was it peaceful? Was it a white light? Favorite album by Virgin Black? Oh, I would start with Elegant and Dying. If that's not goth enough for you, I don't know what to do for you. Elegant and dying. I've actually made 2 sculptures based on their music. One of which the singer, or no, sorry, the guitarist, she took it back to Australia with her. The other one was meant for the singer, Rowan, and they tried to take it back to Australia, but it was way too expensive because they're not like on a huge label. So when they were on a tour and came through Seattle, I saw them, talked to them. It was a wonderful highlight of my life, and gave them the art, and they were very appreciative. And then they got the one piece. It was, in retrospect, it was pretty rude of me to try to give them something so large, knowing that they're international. So I'm sure it was kind of a pain, but I mean, it's an awesome piece, you guys. Oh, the one right above me right now is the smallish one. So that one, it was for Samantha. She goes by Seska Scarba now. And so she did take that with her. I wonder if the next one will be the one for Rowan. Anyway, it ended up staying at their label's office in New York for like 5 years before I was finally like at a place financially where I could be like, okay, can you just send it back to me? And of course, the custom made, like, almost, how long was it? I think it was like 5 feet long. So imagine like a miniature coffin. I had to make a custom crate for it because it's like a face and like hands reaching out, and his tears are pouring down into his hands where he's got cupped, and they like, so they're porcelain. A Poet's Tears of Porcelain is the name of the song, and it's like a big mirror with the, and so the way the head is like a chalice, and so the mirror makes it look like it's a full round chalice. Anyway, delicate, way too heavy. Again, I didn't know enough about materials and stuff at the time. So the thing was probably, I don't know, 40 pounds, probably with the crate, 50 pounds. And yeah, so it ended up at, was it the End Records in New York, I think was the name of their, whatever. And yeah, they could never afford to get it shipped to them. So I reached out to the End and said, hey, if I pay for the shipping, can you just send it back? They had reused that crate, that custom crate I made. So it just came back in like a cardboard box and was destroyed. Like, yeah, pretty much beyond repair. At some point, I'm going to revisit it and like remake it with modern materials and just ship it straight to Australia to Rowan. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Okay, I think I've got all the spikes in place, and I'm just going to start painting like a madman. Like an insane fool. So I think I have a black, what do I have? I got super, oh, here we go. This will work. Straight up basic black acrylic. I think that's about the right kind of shininess level. Let me start with, I'm going to hit all the parts that have the exposed clay first, and then that's going to dry pretty darn quick because it's super hot in here. Oh my god. Oh, and I forgot I have sculpted scales back there I need to avoid. Okay, where am I grabbing him? Where is it safe to grab? Base? Okay, I think it is safe to hold by the base and this arm. Okay, I'm going to try to keep that in mind. Yeah, base handle for this would be amazing. Yeah, another reason why making it modular, or I guess modular is not the right word, but take apartable, what is the word for that? Solves that problem more or less. Acidosis. Thanks, Kirst. It's good to know that. I've definitely heard that said before, but boy, I could not read it. You don't recommend acidosis? Or you don't recommend reading? It's kind of ambiguous what you meant there. So I tried to blow off as much of the dust as I could, and I tried to like scrub off with water, but whatever paint I used, it just like let the dust sort of meld into it. So yeah, I'm just double checking. Like, I can't really get the dust off, but you can always paint over it. And then hopefully I can give it a clear coat that won't have the same problem repeat. And then I'm basically dry brushing over the dusty reticulated skin to bring back its luster. Because if there's one thing Scola loves about his skin, it's the luster. Okay. Let's say that's pretty good for my final trick of the day. I'm going to attempt to color match my big roar kid. Let's see if I can do it. Let's grab a shallower cup. Start with like a yellow ochre. Seems like a good start. Who knows, that may just like be it from the start. Oh, if it wasn't completely dried out. But is it completely dried out? The eternal question. Let's try something. All right, I concede. No, it's not gonna work. How cool would that have been? That's like so close. Oh well, maybe we'll find a closer one. This medium flesh tone. Maybe that mixed with the little yellow. Better or worse than cork brown? It's just a little lumpy, yes. Just a tad. Okay, so we'll start with some of that. You know, mixing them straight together like this is kind of the stupidest way to try to do this. Just not in a particularly patient headspace right now. Alright, what does that need? That needs... I feel like... Let's just see. Might just need a little more yellow. If not, we'll mix some maybe brown into it. It's pretty close. Let's see what happens. As always, we want to start on the back. That's a pretty good spot to test it on. It's not terrible. I think I might be actually grabbing a little bit of the So Strong pigment that is in the epoxy clay. also like not, this paint isn't very thick or opaque, so trying to do dry brushing with it is not super fun or effective. Look at this. That seems to still be there. But it's mostly gone. And at this point, I'm happy to settle for mostly. You know, like when they come out at night. And then there's this little ridge here. I'm going to see if this can sort of ameliorate that a little bit. Seems to be. So yeah. I'm going to call this, this piece has gone from being called Big Roar to being called Good Enough. One final thing I need to do, just remembered. Ideally, I would wait until all these spines are set up, but we do not live in that ideal world. What happened to my cute little brush? I had a cute little one somewhere. Oh, there you go. See, again, ideally, I would have painted this base before attaching Scola. Glad to see so many people are on team Good Enough. Stomp-a-squig. The name good enough or this character?
These back.
And where did I hide my... Oh, they're there. Okay. So I've got these pre-mixed, like a little bit of gray with a little bit of, or sorry, mostly gray with a little bit of some other color. Just for putting down base coat varieties, you know. I think that's enough variation, so now I can do the main covering coat. Which I think I'll just use, what is this? Bridgeport Gray. Everyone's favorite gray, the kind that you find on a bridge near a port. Just gonna mix it in with the rest of this black that I already have. Oh, wait. I just remembered that I forgot something, which was... let's see, this guy. Use the remainder of my batch of clay here to really... I was going to say nail down these screws, but I guess that's kind of what's happening. They're kind of being nailed down. Okay. Now back to the grayification. Always start in the back. This paint's a little bit damp, but since I don't care about stuff getting mixed together, it's fine.
Any updates about keys or whatever?
Yep.
No?
Nope. Dry brushing around a pre-painted sculpture, do not recommend. Don't try this at home, kids. Go to someone else's home and try it. Cunning but brutal is Mork. Yes. Alright, I give up. I'm gonna have to use a smaller brush. Okay. Is this like super important? Who is trying to get a hold of me so badly? Only brutal but cunning. Oh. Sorry if I got that modifier wrong. No. I don't know why I'm even bothering to really try hard to paint around the toes. I can just go back in. Well, I guess because there's some other more softer fleshy colors in there that I don't want to have to recreate. But the parts that are just black, that's pretty easy to fix. then since that was just kind of a light dry brush, oh my. Camera got too hot? Why are you too hot? It's been hotter in here before. We have cool air to blow in it. Chill out. Nope. That's interesting. No more recording for me today, I guess. Yeah, so I think I'll do I'll do a quick wash. I'll use my just cheapo wash. Where are you, cheapo wash? No, you're around here hiding. Can't hide forever, cheapo wash. There it is. Oh, true, I am into overtime. You can feel free to cut away at any time. I'm almost done. Okay. A little washy-washy. Here's a good washy brush. Normally I would do a clear coat between the base coat and the wash, but for this little patch of ground, I don't think it makes a significant difference. Whatever I dab up, if it brings some paint with it, that's fine, I don't care. Probably start with a thinner brush so I can get it way back in all the little cracks. Thanks, Quindy. Yeah, way happier with this than the base that he was on, which was literally just like a black, unfinished wood surface that was just completely covered in dust. This works pretty well, and then I'm just gonna do a quick dry brush just with the same gray color that I had, because you know, the wash knocked it down quite a bit. Again, usually I would give it time to dry between coats, but in this case, because it's such a quick and dirty sort of slapdash job, and I don't think the like final piece is going to be, how to put it, I don't know, like, where do you focus your energies in life? Philosophically, I feel like at some point I could do the proper full procedure to make it 100% as perfect as I like it, but this gets it to like 80 or 90%, and it's just fine there. Right there at 80 or 90%. It's just fine. Team good enough. Cool. Well, I think we did a good job today. Went longer than usual, but that's okay. So, I've been told that's okay from time to time. So here we've got our two refurbished bigatures, which are miniatures that are too big to be miniatures. Scola and Big Roar, and they're ready to go back to their final home, which is my mom's house, because they are who I made them for. So thanks for coming on this journey with me, everyone, of refurbishment and refreshment, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So let's go raid someone, right? Probably? Oh, here I am over here. Hi, everyone. Bye, everyone. Oh yeah, please check out all my stuff. I'm on YouTube. I got a great YouTube channel. Check it out. Buy my books. On Amazon today. They're really good. Okay, now bye everyone.